I've never hacked a phone or told anybody else to hack a phone, and nobody has produced any actual evidence to prove that I did.
Journalists found out that if the celebrity hadn't changed their PIN code,
yeah, you can access their voicemail.
You can access their voicemail just by tapping a number. Now, are you really telling me that journalists aren't going to do that?
Yeah.
If they know they can ring up Charlotte Church's mobile phone, listen to all her messages, right? Now, all you have to do, and I know it's hard because celebrities don't like doing anything for themselves, is actually change your security number.
Yeah, I've changed my security number.
And now you don't have
a tiny cabal of men and women who control almost all newspaper coverage, and from newspaper coverage comes so much of the public opinion. They've done all of this to create an atmosphere in which Prince Harry's calls for further investigation, Tom Watson's appeal to the Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police, will fall on deaf ears. It should, by rights, outrage and upset everyone. But if you live in a country where people are paid to write articles about how he hasn't won at all, then you know that the ecosystem is being primed, is being groomed, if you like. The population is being groomed to let this epic malfeasance and illegality, unlawfulness, to let it go.
Well, it gave everybody a wonderful new label. It's Diana's unstable, and Diana's mentally imbalanced. And unfortunately, that seems to have stuck on and off over the years.
I would like to thank Lord Dyson and his team for the report. It is welcome that the BBC accepts Lord Dyson's findings in full, which are extremely concerning. That BBC employees lied and used fake documents to obtain the interview with my mother, made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia. It brings indescribable sadness to know that the BBC's failures contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia and isolation that I remember from those final years with her.
I think paranoia it's a very interesting word, because yes, then it could be paranoia, but then when you're vindicated, it proves that you weren't being paranoid. You know, same with my mother. You know, there is evidence to suggest that she was being hacked in the mid-90s, probably one of the first people to be hacked, and yet still today the press, the tabloid press, very much enjoy painting her as being paranoid, but she wasn't paranoid. She was absolutely right of what was happening to her, and she's not around today to find out the truth.
He called her paranoid, not once, but twice. And when I say him, I mean Prince William. And as you can see the contrast between both clips, Harry didn't gaslight his mother. He made sure to honor her, and that's what Prince Harry's been doing this entire time. Because if you haven't noticed, how come the royal family, the palace, don't do enough to honor Diana? Have you ever noticed that? They don't have any type of memorial. They don't do anything. Unless Prince William and Harry's doing something, the palace don't do anything to honor Diana. For someone who means so much who meant so much to people and still means a lot to people today, you would think they would do a lot more to honor her memory, but they don't. It's just why it bothers me when I hear a lot of people say things like, why did Prince Harry always bring up his mother? Why shouldn't he? You guys have been talking about her for decades, making money off her memory and her legacy for decades.
You listened to a tape of a voicemail message, is that correct?
I listened to a tape of a message, yes.
But it was a voicemail message, wasn't it?
I believed it was, yes.
Then you deal in more detail here with what you heard. It was heartbreaking. The couple had clearly had a tiff. Heather had fled to India, and Paul was pleading with her to come back. And then he even sang something into the answer phone, as you say. So you listened to all of that. Did you know that was unethical?
Not unethical, no.
Why not?
It doesn't necessarily follow that listening to somebody speaking to somebody else is unethical.
But on the tape of a voicemail message, you didn't think that was unethical?
Well, it depends on the circumstances in which you're listening to it.
But can you tell us something about the circumstances which might lead us to think that it was not unethical?
I'm afraid I can't, no, because I'm not going to do anything that may identify the source.
But the source would only be someone who was participating in the same unethical activity as you were, isn't that true?
Well, you're presuming it's unethical.
The only person who would lawfully be able to listen to the message is the lady in question or somebody authorised on her behalf. Well, I am perfectly happy to call Lady McCartney to give evidence as to whether she authorised you to listen to her voicemails. If she didn't, she may say she did, in which case you're not compromising anybody. But if she didn't, then we can proceed on the premise that it's somebody else, can't we?
Did you authorise Mr. Morgan to access your voicemail?
Never.
Did you authorise Mr. Morgan to listen to your voicemail?
Never ever.
And have you ever played to Mr. Morgan or authorised him to listen to a recording of this or any other voicemail left on your messaging system?
Never.
We need to go one stage further. Have you ever done that in relation to anybody?
No.
Journalist about how the media inflames this. I was called by the Sun newspaper. If you don't know what the Sun is, it's sort of
got the topless girl on page 3. That's all you need to know.
And they called me about a month ago to ask if I'd write about how Meghan was like Wallace and how Meghan was going to destroy the royal family and the arguments between Meghan and Kate. And I said, I'm really sorry, I'm just not privy to all of this. I don't think I could do it. And the commissioning editor was really twisting my arm to write this article and say, but you could say, couldn't you, that X happened, and you could say that she's fired all her staff, and you could say that Kate has said this. And I said, well, I'm really sorry, I don't know that, I can't do it. And this conversation went on for about half an hour, and I didn't write the article, but it just gives you an insight into how this whole thing is being, you know, the flames are being fanned by the media,
You've heard the phrase cottage industry, this is a palace industry. Yes.
William is Charles's son, and Harry is very much Diana's son. Because think about it, and you realize that he is not taking anything away from William, but Harry processed his mother's death very differently than William did. William had another track. William was and is preparing to be king. Harry admits he had a throwaway line that I want you guys to listen closely when he says it. And Addie, I don't know if you heard this. He said, talking about mourning his mother, he goes, I was left alone to process my mother's death, which tells me the infrastructure of the palace were not there. You know, they were rightfully so constant. It's not a fault of William, but that's why if you have watched your mother go through what we all watched Diana go through, and if you're Harry and your mother got killed because of that, wouldn't you do everything in your power to prevent that happening to your wife and child? And that's exactly what Harry did. It's unbelievable. Yeah, I walked away a bigger fan because I have a much better appreciation for what they really went through. I really do.
And they produce, they're all on board with this,
which,
right?
look, you got to take it with a grain of salt. This is through their lens. But think about this. We've only heard their story through the mechanism of the palace and the gross tabloid press. Don't you think they have a right to tell their story? Go watch it on Netflix.
Interview with my mother made lurid and false claims about the royal family, which played on her fears and fueled paranoia. Displayed woeful incompetence when investigating complaints and concerns about the programme, and were evasive in their reporting to the media and covered up what they knew from their internal investigation. It is my view that the deceitful way the interview was obtained substantially influenced what my mother said. The interview was a major contribution to making my parents' relationship worse and has since hurt countless others. It brings indescribable sadness to know that the BBC's failures contributed significantly to her fear, paranoia and isolation that I remember from those final years with her.
Other victims of hacking that I've spoken to have described the paranoia that it creates. Do you identify with that?
I think paranoia it's a very interesting word because, yes, then it could be paranoia. But then when you're vindicated, it proves that you weren't being paranoid. You know, same with my mother. You know, there is evidence to suggest that she was being hacked in the mid-90s. Probably one of the first people to be hacked. And yet, still today, the press, the tabloid press, very much enjoy painting her as being paranoid. But she wasn't paranoid. She was absolutely right of what was happening to her. And she's not around today to find out the truth.
She would want us today to pledge ourselves to protecting her beloved boys, William and Harry, from a similar fate. And I do this here, Diana, on your behalf. We will not allow them to suffer the anguish that used regularly to drive you to tearful despair.
He's not a boy, he's nearly 40. No, I think that the monarchy, in fact, depends on actually obliterating the Sussexes from our state of life.
You were asking to pick up that bill, and it gives me great delight to know that you are now going to have to pay the bill, the legal costs that we would otherwise have had to pay. So let that sink into your overpaid bank account, you ginger twerp.
The verdict yesterday was, Harry, and listen to this, you are nothing special. You're nobody.
Harry, you're lost. And do you know what that makes you? That makes you a loser.
Now get out of our lives.
I actually, it's quite a strong word, but I think I hate Harry.
And I tell you what, if you had one fake gun and one fake bullet and you lined up Harry and James Corden, I don't know which.
I would dismember them, one limb at a time, and after I'd severed all their limbs, I would probably incinerate them.
So that their souls are not simply immersed by duty and tradition, but can sing openly as you planned. We fully respect the heritage into which they have both been born, and will always respect and encourage them in their royal role. But we, like you, recognise the need for them to experience as many different aspects of life as possible, to arm them spiritually and emotionally for the years ahead. I know you would have expected nothing less from us.
It was important for me to show or highlight that pivotal time when Diana had passed. It was important to show how the country of the UK was so on board and pledged to protect Harry and William. And then compare it to now, how they are so almost, it feels like if this was a different time, they would do a lot of horrible things to Harry and his wife. And I think the video stood on its own. There's nothing more I need to say. And if you enjoy my content, please make sure that you give your boy a follow, like, definitely repost and share this video, and leave a comment. I would love to know what you think.
And being with the Duke of Sussex, seeing the same guy take the same picture almost every week as we were coming out of a certain restaurant, I said, look, why are you taking the same picture? You must have hundreds of pictures of us. I doubt it's a fashion thing to critique the Duke's clothing on this particular night. Why are you taking the same photo over and over again? And the gentleman just simply replied back to me, this may be the last picture of him alive. And that to me is worth a lot of money.
And for those that might have missed it, the final scores come in from the midweek match at the Stadium of Common Sense. The Sun 0, Prince Harry 1. What does that tell us? Isn't he a attention-seeking narcissist that's a hypocrite because he wants privacy but also doesn't want privacy? No, he took it to the court and they bottled it and didn't want to sit there and explain themselves. For 35,000 attempts at trying to dig information up unlawfully. 35,000. Try and imagine that. I don't see why they bothered, because who even reads that rag? I mean, who admits to reading The Sun, whether it's in paper or online? Utter trash. Utter trash. Well done, Harry, and everyone else involved in that. Let's have a look to see how they've covered this breaking news, shall we? Let's go to the Harry section on The Sun's website. Let's have a look. Okay, Prince Harry, a bit of a blurb about him. Oh, George, Kate, Diana, Kate. Oh, bit of Harry, advert, Kate, Zara, Mike. This is the Harry section. Strange. Really strange. Where's this news story, The Sun? I've looked and looked and looked. I can't find it anywhere. I mean, what are you doing? You calling the bank to try and get an overdraft to pay this massive bill? You won't be in business next year, then, luck. Hopefully, you'll go exactly the same way as News of the World. Guys, you want an inquiry? There's another one you can have.
we go further. This is a privately leaked WhatsApp conversation with a former Tory friend. The remarks about Prince Harry's fiancée, claiming that black actresses' entry into the royal family would pave the way for a black king. During this shocking tirade, you claimed that you would never have sex, and I find this word hard to say out loud, but I'm going to say it in the context of what it was. You would never have sex with a Negro. You described black people as ugly. You suggested that Meghan would taint the royal family because she is mixed race. I mean, you know, you just don't sound like a very nice person.
It doesn't sound very nice, no. There's a lot in there, what you said. Meghan Markle, I think my comments about her were disgusting. They were meant to shock, and they were private, and I never intended them to be put in the
But at that point, you were in the public eye.
No, I wasn't.
No. At no point. At no point. So have you tempered what you said because you are in the public eye?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know.
It's a fact that every anti-Harry and Meghan story comes from Kensington Palace. But why haven't... And if it comes from Kensington Palace, why are they briefing against their own grand...
Well, OK, that's a very... The idea...
Why are there never any...
Well, I think that's fascinating.
...about Prince William?
Well, William and Kate involved in briefing against them originally? I don't know.
So is it normal for, and do you think it's true, that some of the royal households have been leaking on the other royal households, like Meghan and Harry?
Well, without a doubt. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they can deny it all they like till they're blue in the face, but there's been an awful lot of leaking, particularly from Kensington Palace, about how things were developing, and that was a palace that both of them were representing, you know, being represented by the same people.
And obviously, it's so much easier for them to blame anything uncomfortable on racism, rather than actually address the fact that much of the negativity towards the couple is coming from within the royal family. The royal family and staff of the royal family are the ones that are very often leaking these stories to the press.
Please explain, what was the significance on the witness statement from Ed Verity, better known as Ted Verity?
Ted Verity, the editor of the Mail on Sunday, said in his signed witness statement that he had been given information that helped support Associated's case. He said this information came from a senior palace source, and he said in his witness statement this was, quote, not gossip or tittle-tattle.
What does that mean?
What it means is that a senior figure in the royal household, according to Mail on Sunday, was passing him information in order to help defeat the Duchess's case.
The Mail on Sunday had the ruling against them in February, and they were then appealing it. So it was lawyers from the Mail on Sunday who would have approached Jason Naff, knowing that these emails and messages existed. That would have been the point. Unless, I mean, the most likely outcome is that Jason obviously would have then gone to William and Kate, and clearly he has cooperated. He would not have cooperated with those lawyers without their definite knowledge.
You can only sue in this country against something that's denied or not admitted. That's the way the law works. If someone admits something, you don't have a cause of action. So once they've admitted what he called for, then it's them settling. It's not Prince Harry. He has conceded nothing. They are paying him damages, and they're paying his legal fees. Now, I'm not at liberty to say what the total cost of that is, but I see the BBC have said that it's an 8-figure sum, upwards of 10 million. Now, it wouldn't surprise me, and I've not seen it denied, but that's not Prince Harry backing down. It's not Prince Harry who's admitted anything. It's News Group newspapers, News UK, saying that the Sun engaged in criminal activity. Let's be clear about that. That's what unlawful activity means. It means blagging of medical records. It means obtaining phone bills. It means, in many cases, phone hacking, listening to voice messages. It means getting financial records. These are all gross intrusions of people's privacies done in secret. The key thing is,
and there's a distinction, sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Harris, there's a distinction, isn't there, in the words unlawful and illegal, because illegal refers to something that is expressly...
It's not just a tabloid. It's not just some story. You are making me scared. Right? And like that night, to be up and down in the middle of the night, looking down my hallway, like, are we safe? Are the doors locked? Is security on? Is everything? That's real. Are my babies safe? And you've created it for what? Because you're bored, or because it sells your papers? Or it makes you feel better about your own life? It's real what you're doing. And that's the piece I don't think people fully understand.
I think when it comes to charity, Prince Harry knows all about it. It started when he was a babe in arms, when he watched his mother do those remarkable things that she did as a young woman before her death. And he found in Meghan someone, I think, remarkably like Diana.
Well, I do know that one of the things that bonded Meghan and Harry during those early dates was her genuine passion for philanthropy and humanitarian causes.
Meghan has spent a lot of her teenage and adult years fighting for women's rights and for women all over the world.
She's very committed to empowering women and young girls around the globe.
Luama Stefanos is from Eritrea, and just 4 years ago, she literally ran to get her freedom with bullets flying towards her. She was a slave. She is now working on a grassroots organization to try to free people who are still slaves in Eritrea. I mean, I think this is one of those moments in life where you have that are so inspiring. She's incredibly brave and strong. She has spoken at the United Nations against the leaders in her country who are still enslaving people. So it's funny, I feel very emotional about it because it's just so humbling, and she's just so incredible. So this is Luama Stefanos.
She wrote a really articulate piece in Time magazine, and in doing so, I think she's made most of us aware of something that we wouldn't otherwise be aware of, and that's what Harry loves about her.
I travelled. A reluctant prince.
And during that period of frustration, did you ever wish that you weren't a prince?
I wish that quite a lot, actually.
But, you know, it's something I'd love to do, and, you know, now I've had the chance once, I suppose I've got quite into it. And at the end of the day, if you join the army, you expect to go on operations. I don't want to sit around at Windsor because I just generally don't like England that much, and, you know, it's nice to be away from all the press and the papers and the general shite that they write.
Time in my life with my head buried in the sand, you know, thinking, I don't want to be Prince Harry, I don't want this responsibility, I don't want this role. You know, look what's happened to my mother. You know, why does this have to happen to me?
Harry even considered a drastic move.
Prince Harry got so low that he decided at one point that he might leave the royal family.
He's living this life that he's been born into, it's not his choice. And I think he felt at times very cross about that.
Tour of Afghanistan, Harry's exasperation, even loathing of the press, has shone through loud and clear.
My father always says don't read it. Everyone says don't read it because it's always rubbish. I'm surprised how many people in the UK actually read it. I mean, everyone's guilty for buying the newspapers, I guess, but hopefully no one actually believes what they read, which I certainly don't. But yeah, of course I read it. If there's a story and something's being written about me, I want to know what's being said. But all it does is just upset me and anger me that people can get away with writing the stuff they do. Not just about me, about everything and everybody.
And that mistrust of the press, I mean, how far back does that go? Is that something that's
I think it's fairly obvious how far back it goes, to when I was very small.
I once said that the big beasts of the tabloid jungle have no predators. I was wrong. They have Prince Harry. His bravery and astonishing courage have brought accountability to a part of the media world that thought it was untouchable. I am sure I speak on behalf of the thousands of victims when I say we are grateful to him for his unwavering support and his determination under extraordinary pressure. If Rupert Murdoch had any decency, he should follow this corporate admission of guilt with a personal apology to Prince Harry, to his father, our king, and to the countless others who suffered the same unlawful behaviour at the hands of his media empire. News Group Newspapers owes so many such apologies. Thousands of ordinary people just trying to live their lives have endured the same unlawful behaviour.